we have our first ever Master Duels event, the XYZ Festival. Which deck are you going to be playing? What's going on, guys? My name is Susu from HeadtoHead Battles, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over the decks and the cards that can see the most success in the XYZ Festival. If you guys like content like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Hit that notification bell to join the squad, and comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything that I say in this video. I want to preface the video by saying that these are going to be a quick overview of the decks and the cards, okay? If you guys want more information or more of an in-depth look, please join the Discord. I'll have the links in the description box down below. That's always so hard to say. All right, join the Discord and you can ask your questions there. And there is a separate deck list channel where you can go and find some of these deck lists, which I'm going to be talking about in today's video. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. All right, first off, let's go over the rules and the nuances of the festival, okay? So the duration of the tourney is the 17th to the 23rd, and as you duel in the event, you're going to be collecting medals, okay? So with these medals, I'm assuming the more that you have, the more that you can, the more rewards that you get at the end of the XYZ Festival, or even those IRL sleeves that they are flaunting, right? The only rules that I can see is that for the extra deck, only XYZ monsters can be used, which means that it's not saying that you need to special summon from the extra deck. It's not saying that you can't use anything but XYZ monsters, but I'm going to assume that you need to XYZ summon at least once or twice to get these medals. If not, truth be told, you can just play Eldlich or True Dracos or any deck that generally doesn't rely on the extra deck anyway to win you games, right? Now let's look under the medals info. It says, medals are claimed at the end of each duel. You can immediately gain rewards corresponding to the number of medals you've earned. Nice. You can earn medals whether you win, draw, or lose, but I'm going to assume you get more for winning because that only makes sense. And you can earn the double medals by using your own original deck, which we can assume that means they're going to be giving us a loaner deck to play these events. But if you win with your own, which I'm going to assume like 90% of players are, you get to earn double medals, which is really, really nice, right? And this is kind of like the biggest stipulation, right? You will not earn any medals if you surrender the duel, fight on to the very end, which means if you're playing like a crooked Cook Exodia stall deck, you're literally going to be sitting there for freaking ever, okay? So these are the general rules and regulations. If you guys need more info, maybe hop into the Discord and me or the mods or the OG members will definitely get more information for you, all right? So let's move on to the decks. Now, let's go over some of the decks that will really excel in this competition with the rules in mind. And again, this is going to be a quick overview. If you need the deck list or whatever else you may need in terms of more information, please head over to the Discord. That is the best place for us to help you in real time without there being any lag between YouTube comments and, whatever else they may be, all right? So the first deck I have is Eldlich. Now, I know a lot of players hate Eldlich. I myself am not a big fan of Eldlich, but if you want to win or, gather as many medals as possible, Eldlich is a really good choice because you do play Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, which basically says I can detach one material, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent, and then I can go into Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Lieb. And basically, I can detach one material from this card. It gains 2,000 attack and defense. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can only declare an attack with this card. But after you've, burned your opponent for 2,000 and then you swing into them with 6,000, you are effectively winning the game, right? But the Eldlich strategy is really good because Eldlich the Golden Lord is one hell of a card. Its second effect is really nice because you can, we'll read it together, if this card is in your graveyard, you can send a one spell and trap you control to the graveyard, add this to your hand, and then you can special summon one zombie monster from your hand, and if you do, until the end of the turn, it gains 1,000 attack and defense and cannot be destroyed by card effects. So generally, you'll add this card back to your hand and summon it back, and you'll have a 3,500 attack beat stick that can't be destroyed by card effects, which is really, really nice, right? And to kind of deal with the mirror match, I want to talk about Ice Dragon's Prison. So this card says, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but its effects are negated. Then you can banish one monster from both players' field that have the same type as each other. So which means you can basically summon your opponent's Golden Lord and then banish two Golden Lords in one go, which is absolutely insane. Another really good card in this strategy is obviously Skill Drain and Imperial Order. But just in case you go second, Lava Golem is definitely a really nice tech choice because this card says it cannot be normal summoned or set. It first must be special summoned from your hand to your opponent's field by tributing two monsters they control. You cannot normal summon the set, normal summon or set the turn you special summon this card. And once per turn, your opponent takes 1,000 damage in the standby phase, right? So this card is really nice because it helps break apart boards, which is really nice. And on top of that, it helps you kind of beat your opponent quicker because, because Eldlich is a control-based deck, sometimes you do play these drawn-out games, but with Gustav, Max, and Lieb, Eldlich the Golden Lord, and Lava Golem, you're definitely having a really good time. The last card I want to talk about is Inspector Border. This will generally be your normal summon in the deck, which conflicts a little with Lava Golem, but generally if you see one or the other, you're definitely chilling, right? This card says it cannot be normal or special if you control a monster. So basically, if you normal summon this monster, your opponent generally can't activate monster effects. That's basically all it says. The text is really confusing, and even seasoned players have a tough time with it, all right? So that is the first deck. Let's move over to the second deck. All right, so the second deck I want to talk about is actually Gren Maju. Now, the Gren Maju strategy generally only plays Xyz monsters, or rather, these are the only monsters that you do end up summoning. But let's talk about why this deck is going to be so good, right? So this deck doesn't care if it goes first or second, right? And generally speaking, you do want to go second with the deck, right? You do play 6 Kaijus. You play Dimension Shifter, which is one of the best cards in the game, because this card says if you have no cards in your graveyard and you won't going second, turn 1, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard until the end of the next turn. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. That's any card, even Xyz material. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, okay? Your main boss monster, Gren Maju the Isa. This card gains attack and defense equal to the number of cards that are banished times 400. And generally, that's going to be a lot because we do play triple Pot of Desires, which basically says Gren Maju gains 4,000 attack and you draw 2 cards, right? We generally don't care about the banish effect of this card because it does progress our game state. And if you guys want a more in-depth look on this deck, I've done an entire dedicated deck profile to it, so you guys can go check that out there. One of the main reasons this deck is so good is we play 6 Kaijus, right? We play 3 Gamma Seal and 3 Godarla. Now, just like Lava Golem, this card tributes a card to special summon itself to your opponent's side of the field. And I know a lot of newer players, generally ask, like, why do I want to give my opponent a big monster? Well, the main reason being is it helps to out your opponent's boss monster that you wouldn't have been able to out otherwise, right? Like a Golden Lord that can't be destroyed by card effects. We are playing triple Lightning Storm to help kind of break apart the back row if we are playing against Eldlich and whatever else we may be seeing. Now, for the extra deck, your main extra deck monsters are going to be Dingirsu, the Orchid of the Evening Star. This card on summon will non-targeting send a card from your opponent's side of the field. And on top of that, when a card on your side of the field is going to be destroyed or, destroyed by battle or card effect, you can non-activating detach a card to save your board. Another really good card is Lancelot, the Dark Knight of the Underworld. This card says I can swing for 2,000 directly, and when and if I do, I can pop a card on my opponent's side of the field, a face-up monster rather. And once per turn, if my opponent activates anything, I have a mandatory negate, and it's mandatory. So if you activate something, you'll end up mandatory negating your own card, which is really important to know. Your next biggest boss monster is number 100 Numeron Dragon. This card, you're going to be summoning it off of Draglublion, and when you do, you can detach a card from this, which, off of Draglublion, you can summon this with the material attached underneath it. It'll gain 1,000 attack for every rank on the field. So this is a rank 1, and Draglublion, which will be on the field, is a rank 8, so you'll immediately have 9,000 attack on this boss monster, right? Now, the next thing we're going to kind of talk about is Pain Gainer. So this card says I can XC summon this card by using a rank 8, 9, or 10, which, all of my rank, all my Xyz monsters are. And then once I've attacked with an Xyz monster, I can overlay it for a 4 material AA Zeus. And Zeus will definitely be a card that everyone will be playing in this festival, all right? So if you guys want a really dope going second deck that can break apart boards and really set up like lethal damage immediately, I highly recommend checking out this deck. All right, on to the next one. The next deck on my list is going to be Drytrons. Now, going by the rules, this deck, your main boss monster is Herald of Ultim in this anyways, so you never really have to go into your extra deck, as much as you would like to. And your other boss monster, which is going to be the other monster on your field, is Vanity's Ruler. This card says it cannot be special summoned. Your opponent cannot special summon monsters, right? So if you have Herald of Ultimateness with 6 negates and you have Vanity's Ruler on the field, your opponent generally can't play because they can't even kaiju your Herald of Ultimateness because, you know, those count as special summons, right? Now, the only Xyz monsters that you ever need to summon in this deck are going to be Drytron, Mu Beta, Fafnir. This is a combo extender piece. Basically, when I summon this monster, I can send a Drytron card from deck to graveyard, which will generally be your third Drytron name. And when you ritual summon, you can use the materials underneath this card for ritual materials. So this card is actually insanely broken. And the only other, you know, real Xyz that we're going to be summoning is Beatrice, the Lady of the Eternal. And this card basically will Foolish Burial or dump any card from deck to graveyard that you want, right? Which will usually be Ava. Ava says, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish up to 2 other Light Fairies monsters from your field and or graveyard and add the same number of level 2 or lower Light Fairy monsters with different names, right? Now, generally, you're going to be adding Herald of the Orange Light, which is basically a hand trap, and Diviner. The reason we took Diviner out of this package is simply because we are playing Vanity's Ruler, and if we normal summon Diviner, we can't tribute summon Vanity's Ruler, but you definitely should be playing Diviners in this deck list. So generally speaking, after the combo is over, you're going to be ending on a Herald of Ultimateness with 6 to 8 negates, and on top of that, your opponent cannot special summon. The only thing that this really loses to would be Dark Ruler No More, or even Forbidden Droplets, which I'm going to assume a lot of people are playing. So if you guys want to kind of play a combo heavy deck that really stops your opponent from playing, I really do recommend Drytrons. It's definitely fun, but you know, there is some hate for this deck, but that, you know, that's okay. You just want the medals, right? So on to the next one. The next deck on my list is going to be Paleo Grass Frogs. Now, your main boss monster is going to be totally awesome, and this card is really, really good. So let's read this card together. It says, once per turn during the standby phase, I can detach 1 material from this card, special summon 1 frog monster from your deck, which is really powerful for this one. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap or monster effect, quick effect, I can send 1 aqua monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard. You can even send itself and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card and set it to your field. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 water monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is really powerful because you have cards like Swap Frog, right? Swap Frog says, I can special summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 other water monster. When this card is summoned, you can send 1 level 2 or lower water aqua monster from your deck or face up field to the graveyard, and once per turn, I can return 1 monster you control to the hand, even itself, and you can normal summon 1 frog during your main phase this turn, except itself, right? In addition to your normal or summon / set. So this is a really, really control-oriented deck, and the grass is greener will load your trap cards, your Paleozoic trap cards, into the graveyard, right? Because this card says, target 1 spell or trap card on the field, destroy it once per chain. And I mean, that's just the effect of the trap card, but most Paleozoic trap cards will have this effect, okay? Once per chain, when a trap card is activated while this card is in your graveyard, I can special summon this card as a normal trap, level 2, 1200 attack. This card is not treated as a trap card, so Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclone would not be able to out this. If summoned this way, this card is unaffected by monster effects and banish it when it leaves the field. So, if you're going up against a deck like Eldlich, this deck really shines because every time your opponent activates a trap card, it helps to extend your plays to get your trap cards on the field to overlay for your, your main boss monsters, which are mostly Xyz, right? So, Paleozoic Anomalocaris says you need 3 or more level 2 monsters, which is really easy if you're going up against a trap deck. This card says this card is unaffected by other monsters' effects. Once per turn, if a trap card is sent from your field or your spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's a trap card, you can add it to your hand. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. And that sent to graveyard is not that bad because we are playing cards like Absolute King Backjack, as well as other trap cards that we do want to see. All right, so if you guys want to play a nice control-oriented deck that is definitely anti-meta, or rather, helps play against the meta, namely Eldlich, I highly recommend Paleo Grass Toad. It's a really fun deck, and if you've never resolved the grass, or the grass is greener, that card is really insane, and it definitely helps fuel your strategy. All right, so on to the next deck. The next deck I want to talk about is Numeron OTK. Now, there's not a lot to say about this deck, so I can literally just tell you the combo really quickly. You're going to activate Numeron Network. This card says during your main phase, you can send 1 Numeron normal spell card that meets its activation conditions from the deck to the graveyard, which will be Numeron Calling, and basically Numeron Network becomes Numeron Calling. So let's read Numeron Calling. Numeron Calling says, If Numeron Network is in your field zone and you control no monsters, you can special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters with different names from your extra deck, but banish them during the end phase, and you can only normal or special summon once for the rest of the turn, right? So you're going to be summoning the Numeron Gates 1 through 4, and these cards basically say it cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach 1 material from this card and double the attack of all Numeron monsters you control until the end of the turn. But the field spell says that I don't need to detach, so these will activate no matter what. And you have 4 of these. So by the end of your combo, after you've attacked with each and every single one, your last Numeron Gate will have 8,000 attack. But we are playing cards like Limiter Removal, which basically says to double the attack of all machine monsters you currently control. So generally, you'll be ending off on a 16,000 attack Numeron Gate. And this card is, and this deck is also really good because you have a card called Memories of Hope, which basically says I can draw cards equal to the number of Xyz monsters with different names that I control, and you can only activate 1 of these per turn. And after you resolve Network and Calling, you'll be controlling 4. So there are barely any cards in the game that say draw 4, but this card definitely says it. So if you guys want to play a quick and easy OTK deck that definitely is really consistent, I highly recommend Numeron OTK. You'll definitely be grabbing a lot of quick medals with this strategy. All right, so on to the last deck. The last deck I want to talk about is obviously pure Zoodiacs. I know a lot of people in the comments or people who haven't watched the video till this point are like, but where's Zoodiac? It's literally right here, okay? The Zoodiac strategy is super simple, all right? You normal summon, and basically you just start stacking monsters on top of your normal summon monsters with your Zoodiac Xyz monsters, right? One of your main boss monsters in Zoodiac Drytron basically says, once per turn, you can Xyz summon Zoodiac Drytron by using 1 Zoodiac monster you control with a different name as material. You can transfer its material to this card, which is really nice. It gains attack and defense equal to the attack and defense of all Zoodiac monsters attached to it as material, which generally, most of the time, isn't going to be as big as you think it is. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card and target 1 face-up card on the field and destroy it, which is really, really nice. So generally, if you're going first, you're going to set some trap cards, have some hand traps in your hand, and you're going to be sitting on Drytron. And after you guys, on turn 2 or 3, whatever turn you have, you can go into Utopic Draco Future by summoning 2 of the same Zoodiacs and then overlaying them for Utopic Draco Future. This card basically says it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and once per turn when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, and if that monster is on the field, you gain control of it, which is really, really nice. And as always, this deck is basically Zeus Turbo. This is like one of the few decks where you can make a 6 material Zeus very, very easily without jumping through like 30 different hoops, and that's why this deck is really good going first into turn 3, which is really, really nice, because as long as you have a normal summon in hand, you are definitely playing. So if you guys want to play a really easy deck with a lot of options, and again, definitely be able to make a lot of medals quickly, I highly do recommend Pure Zoo. And now with the decks out of the way, let's go over some of the tech choices that I think will really shine in the Xyz Festival. All right, so these are some of the cards that I think will be really used during the Xyz Festival. So let's read these cards together and end the video. All right, so Astro Crebo. This card says I can reveal 1 number Xyz monster in your extra deck. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, this card's level becomes that revealed monster's rank. So if you reveal a level 4 or a rank 4, this card becomes level 4. And here's the best part, right? If you Xyz summon with this under it as material, it cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effect. So generally, you'll be summoning number 59 Crooked Cook. This card says, while you control no other cards on the field, this card is unaffected by other card effects. And once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, destroy as many many other cards you control as possible. Then this card gains 300 attack until the end of this turn for each monster destroyed by this effect and sent to the graveyard. But generally, the Crooked Cook strategy is used with Exodia. So if you guys want to play a really cheeky Crooked Cook Exodia stall, this is definitely the 2 tech choices for you. But Astro Crebo definitely works with any other Xyz deck that has numbered Xyz monsters, okay? The next card I want to talk about is Xyz Encore. This card says, target 1 face-up Xyz monster that your opponent controls that has Xyz material. Detach all Xyz materials from it, and if you do, return it to the extra deck. Then, if there is a monster card in the graveyard among those detached Xyz material, special summon as many of those monsters as possible from the graveyard to your opponent's side. of the field in face-up defense. Their levels are reduced by 1 on the field, and cards and effects cannot be activated in response to this card's activation. Now, generally speaking, it's never good to give your opponent 2 free bodies, but because they can only XC summon during the Xyz Festival, this card is going to be really, really good. The next card I want to talk about is Xyz Import. This card says you can target 1 Xyz monster that you control and 1 monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to it. Attach that opponent's monster to your monsters as material, and you can only activate it once per turn. And this is a quick play spell, so it's definitely very proactive and reactive as well. All right. The next card I want to talk about is Dimensional Barrier. This card says I can declare 1 monster card type, and in this case it'll be Xyz. For the rest of this turn, neither player can special summon monsters of the declared type. Also negate the effects of all monsters of that type while they are on the field, and you can only activate 1 of these per turn. Now, if you're playing like the Eldlich strategy, Dimensional Barrier is really powerful because generally you don't need to go into Xyz ever that often, but definitely if your opponent is playing an Xyz heavy deck and that's their general win condition, Dimensional Barrier is a really, really good card, all right? The last card is definitely a cheeky one. This card says, Xyz Reflect, this card says, when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated that targets a face-up Xyz monster on the field, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, then inflict 800 damage to your opponent. This card is really good if you are playing a lot of going first Xyz cards. If you set Xyz Reflect, because this is a counter trap, 1, your opponent generally won't be able to respond to it going into turn 2 for them, because you generally can't respond to a counter trap unless you have another counter trap. So the only out to this card will be Red Reboot. So this card's going to be really good. I highly recommend it, and I recommend you play test with it before the festival comes and see if you like it or not. All right. The last card I want to talk about is number 86, Heroic Champion Rongo Mai. Okay, English is hard. This card says, you need 2 or more, maximum of 5 level 4 warrior monsters. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, detach 1 material from this card. That's maintenance. This card gains effect based on the number of materials attached to it. The only ones we care about, because generally your opponent will have 5 because it's very easy to do so in the Phantom Knight strategy. This card says, once per turn, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. If it has 4, your opponent cannot normal or special summon monsters, which is really powerful, right? Because you would have to survive 3 entire turns to play this game, right? 3+ is unaffected by other card effects. 2+, it gains 1500 attack and defense, so it'll be a 3k beat stick, and it cannot be destroyed by battle. So this card is insanely insane, okay? This card is banned in the TCG. Now, to be fair, it's hard to summon this without the link monsters and the PK strategy, but I'm going to assume that there are other strategies out there that I am unaware of that can summon this card quite easily. All right, guys. If you guys have made it to the end of the video, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said in today's video. Also, if you guys need more help with the deck list or some of the cards that I talked about in this video, please join the Discord. The links are all down in the description box down below. Also, if you guys want to kind of see the smaller nuances of these decks or kind of talk more in-depth live, head over to twitch.tv/head-to-head battles, where we stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we definitely do a lot of talking and a lot of deck theory and card theory as well. All right, guys. So I have taken up way too much of your time because this was definitely a longer video. So I'll definitely catch you in the next one. This is Susu from HeadtoHead Battles, signing out.
What's up, guys? If you haven't subscribed, make sure to click that button right there in the middle.
Also, if you haven't watched that video that YouTube is recommending you, it's probably crazy, all right? Go watch it. This is Susu from HeadtoHead Battles,
HeadtoHead Battles,
signing out.